Psychological therapies. At what point do you recognize that you need help and where do you go? People that struggle with psychological problems tend to feel helpless. Many people around them see that they have a loss of ambition or drive. Unfortunately, they feel sad and they hurt and they feel like they can't overcome that. Because a majority of the time, people with psychological issues feel helpless, they never reach out for help. This brings me to my next point. What kind of help can you receive when going through these things? At first, anyone that showed signs of being mentally ill were sent away to insane asylums. They were never asked what was actually wrong and what was going through their mind. Their treatments were terrible. Instead of making them better, they would make them worse. And then, finally, later on, they started treating them with respect. And they actually started medicating the people that were able to be treated with medicines. Two different kinds of therapies would be insight, which is basically the goal of this was to gain insight on how they were feeling and let them talk it out. Another one was action therapy, which was to change the disorder right away and solve the problem as soon as the person came out with what they were just struggling with. There was also biomedical therapies, which were basically solved through medicine, and it just reduced, like, let's say, depression pills. When people were struggling with depression, it's hard for them to get back on the right track. So when they take antidepressants, it makes them happy, it makes them more energetic, and it gives them energy. Nowadays, they use psychoanalysis therapy, which is a shorter treatment, and it also has an emphasis on transference, and it's also a more direct therapeutic approach, so people feel more comfortable doing it. Interpersonal therapy is basically geared towards more therapy for patients suffering with depression. A person-centered therapy is when a patient talks and the therapist just listens. They don't give any help, they just listen, because sometimes it's good for people to just listen. Group therapy is basically a big group of people come in and talk about similar problems. This therapy is different. It's a lot less expensive, and it offers social and emotional support from other group members rather than just one-on-one time, which sometimes is better for. It just depends on the situation and who is being treated. Why should you get help? You can't do it alone. And a lot of the time when people do it alone or try to deal with things alone, they tend to get discouraged way more fast. I mean, you can't do everything alone. Sometimes it's too much to just do alone. And that's when you have to recognize when to just accept that you're not okay being alone. And it's okay to reach out to other people. People want to help you. You just have to accept it. Getting help is good for your mental health and physical health, clearly. Obviously for mental health, but for physical health, you feel a lot more energized when you're not so sad all the time. Unfortunately, it is a long road to recovery. With mental health, it's such a deep-rooted monster inside of you, and you feel stuck. And so it's whether you want to get help or not. And, I understand that, like, a lot of people, it's hard for them to get help, but it's so worth it in the end when you finally get past it. A lot of people kind of have this weird thing against getting help from therapists because they're like, I don't want to talk to one-on-one people. But psychotherapy actually has been proven to be beneficial. 75 to 90% of people who received this type of treatment said it helped, which means almost all of those people saw different results. They got better and they felt happy. They started being themselves again, which is weird because a lot of the time these people are struggling with it for a long time, so they forget who they are. And what happens after psychotherapy? You get to choose. You don't have to continue with it. A lot of the time people will, just because it does help. The more longer you go to psychotherapy or you go to therapy in general, the more you take out of it. But you don't have to be in it. If you absolutely decide that you don't like it at all and you don't feel like it's helping you, you get to choose what you do from that point forward. But there's always options. This is why I think that psychological therapies are a very misproven, and a lot of people are judged by going to therapy because it's such a weird outlook. And a lot of people don't like to admit their struggles and admit what they're sad about and admit they're even hurting. And unfortunately, no one can change that outlook on somebody, but it's up to them whether they want help. And it's always good for them to want help, because anyone is out there, whether it's your mom, your dad, your friends, even your teacher. I mean, anybody is willing to help. You just have to ask.